You may not know, but sometimes I do one of these. That's right, I do kitchens. Every once in a while, that is. I just consider it a big built-in piece of furniture. And this one came with a few challenges. It's small, but it packed a big punch. So this is what's going on. This right here is not prepped. Whoever did the kitchen prior. This is just coming right off. So, a little more work. Normally, this is not how I go about prepping a kitchen to be painted. Typically, a good scuff sand and some primer does the trick, but this one was quite the undertaking. Well, now maybe the hardest part starts. I don't have a lot of the doors, but there's a lot of the doors. It is a small kitchen, but this project, like I told you guys before, is a little more, how shall I say it, labor intensive than I thought. It's just a thick layer of paint. Even though it's fairly easy to get off, it's not. Anyway, there's a little bit of dread, but I'll tell you what, the in-home portion, the base of the cabinets look so good compared to what they did. And I can't wait to see what these guys are gonna look like. For reference, I can actually take my fingernail and just scrape off. It's not, this is not how easy things should come off. So, I can't just paint right over this. So, I'm going to use some stripper though. That'll be a little bit easier. Even though I don't want to. Now, in the past, I've had nightmares using stripper. Sometimes it's just so hard to get off in the stripper. Although it makes it a little easier, it hasn't been. But this, let me tell you, when it comes off like this, kind of fun, kind of satisfying. It's definitely very messy, and it's kind of stinky too. But since it's not one of those scratch and sniff kind of videos, I'm going to let you guys just sit here and enjoy the process. As you can see here, I've got my shaped scraper right here, and I think it was made for this kind of detail. I got lucky. It perfectly fits in the grooves, and it took that paint right off. This was definitely an all-day process. I wasn't counting on this kitchen to take this long, but you know what? You gotta do what you gotta do to make this the best outcome you can. I figured after using my stripper that I would just sand away, but I found that it was still extremely hard to get off that finish. So my process did change, but here I ended up having to scrape a little bit and then sand down. One done. After realizing how hard that first one was to strip and sand down, I decided I needed to throw in a new step, and that was to add acetone after I stripped, just to get off that little extra paint and finish of the original stain of the cabinets, and it made life a little easier. And the next day when I came in, that's what I did. I stripped, then used acetone, scraped a little, and sanded down, and it made the process go a lot smoother and a lot quicker, and I didn't spend the whole day doing this. It's at this point that you're almost done. You've done all these drawers and cabinet doors, and that feeling of accomplishment kind of hits you. And then you get that last door done. So what do you do? Obviously, you let off some steam. Maybe a little dancing, but also you got to realize that I got to clean all this up. And I'm the type that has to clean up every night because I always want to come into a fresh shop. Coming in the next morning to a clean shop, it was time to take on the next step. And that was to fill in this little inlaid detail. It kind of dated the kitchen cabinets. They aren't the best quality, but we are making them look 100% better by giving them a nice painted finish, but we figured let's get rid of this little detail by adding some Bondo and filling it in, and hopefully this gives it more of a cleaner look. And this is one of those times I definitely learned a lesson. I'm always learning new tricks and tips, and this is one of them. When I put my Bondo on, I probably should have maybe taped off the inlay. That way, when I sanded down, it wouldn't have taken so long. Had I put some tape down, it would have just been a small strip rather than such a large surface area to sand. Because I'm telling you, this took almost half a day to sand. That's okay. learning every day, right? Oh, and finally, the fun starts. Yes, this is just the primer, but I get to do the part that just changes everything. Why am I rolling on the primer? Well, the main reason is it is a small kitchen, and why not? But I'm actually going to be spraying the paint, and I like to hang my doors up in order to paint, so I am putting in some hooks on the underside that you cannot see when I hang them back up. I will also fill in those holes when I'm done, so you won't even know that this is even happening. Ready to go. This is a two-tone color kitchen, and she chose for the lower cabinets Evergreen Fog. It's a Sherwin Williams color, but I love to use Benjamin Moore, and they were able to color match it. It's such a pretty sage green. I can't wait to finish these up and eventually assemble the kitchen because I am absolutely in love with this color. One of my concerns was after filling in that inlaid detail that you could still see where that was, and after priming them I felt like things are good, can't see it. And even after painting them, I'm like, okay, I think we figured it out. It looks good when they were wet, and I'm just going to keep going, and hopefully I won't have to fill those in anymore. So after doing the green lower cabinets, it was time to do the upper cabinets. And the upper cabinets are in cloud white. Again, it's a Benjamin Moore color. It's just a really pretty white, not a stark white. When I came in that morning and after I did these, I realized that I could still see that detail just a little bit. I thought at first, like, okay, it's not bad, but in the right lighting you might be able to see it, but you know what, I just couldn't. It would drive me crazy. So I had to go back and use this filler to fill it in again, knowing that I had painted everything, but I've got to do it right. I got to do the job until it's done. And if something's not right, you got to be willing to go back and fix the problem. So I'm doing this one right here just to see if this corrects the issue. And I realized it did. So I ended up having to do every single cabinet door. So without showing you all the gory details, I primed and then repainted them. And I think this is going to work. Now, I wanted to do a little project for them. As you can see right here, they had these little corner shelves. And I made mention that maybe they want to do something with a floating shelf that's a little beefier and it looks like a solid piece of wood. And they were all in, so this is my attempt at giving them that beautiful option. But the problem was when I started to build it, I realized I did not have a piece of wood that was the right width. So I ended up cutting a strip to make up the difference, gluing it to the original piece, And then what I'm doing here is I'm adding glue to the seam and then sanding it. And what happens is that sawdust gets into the seam and creates a seamless look. All right. You wouldn't know that I added a piece. Look at that. Can you tell? This is one board. The only way to tell is right here, but look at that. Looks like one seamless piece. Since that seemed to work really well, I'm going ahead and finishing these floating shelves off by adding the side pieces and then the underside. And what's going to happen is I'm just going to slip this floating shelf over the existing shelves that are up there. Can I just say that thank God for clamps? Again, I'm just using that technique with the glue right in the seams, sanding it, and the glue and the sawdust just creates a beautiful filler. Now we're going to get to the staining, and right here I'm doing a pre-stain before I use a gel stain. And let me just tell you, staining can be very difficult as far as it being blotchy and not uniform. So that's why I like to use a glaze quite a bit. But I am attempting this stain right here, and you'll see what happens. Too dark. Too dark. Fudge. Right. I definitely wanted it lighter, and I should have done a test piece, but I didn't. Again, live and learn. So after it dried a bit, I went ahead and sanded it down, which did help lighten it up. And eventually I got to where I wanted to get it, but yeah, staining is a tricky thing. Now the fun part. First, I've got to make sure these shelves fit, and they are absolutely perfect. Sometimes you never know if you make them outside of the home. And anyway, all the measurements were good. I was able to attach them and secure them in place. Super happy with how they turned out. Fun fact, don't know if you know, but attaching cabinet doors by yourself is not easy. So a little backstory on this kitchen. The couple that I'm doing this for, they are eventually going to sell their home, and they needed an update in their kitchen. And they're doing a few more things, and painting the cabinets was number one on the list. I know they're going to do some flooring and possibly some countertops, but I was super excited to help them in this process. So let's remember back what it used to be. Just kind of a white kitchen, like any other kitchen, but a little boring. Why not add a little color? And she went with the two-tone look with the evergreen fog on the bottom, the white cloud on the uppers, and they've got these beautiful new floating shelves. I love it. What do you guys think? And do you love the two-tone look as much as I do?